Let's talk about silly words for important things and how their perceived silliness doesn't make the concepts they're talking about any less important. That's 3 takes. One of them has to not suck. Pretty much all of us grew up hearing about those people. The only difference between us all really as a people is who those people were to us as children. And sadly, adolescents, teenagers, and yes, still adults. Who did our parents and television and movies and teachers and every authority in our lives tell us to be scared of or derisive of or just outright not care about? The words social justice are divisive. And why is that? Well, let's be honest here. The name is in my show, and I think the term sounds silly. Obviously, I believe in it, but they're new words, and it's a new, weird term for a thing that makes a lot of people uncomfortable to talk about. And so immediately the term was used outside of an academic context to mock a stereotype of a multiculturalist. For more on this, see our long-form analysis of otherwise pretty funny 90s comedy PCU. So why do these new words make people uncomfortable and open themselves to immediate dismissal and mockery? Well, because a lot of people don't want to hear about how maybe they're terrible without realizing it, and a lot of my positions, personally, are very reactionarily about that. I have no respect for a lack of introspection. It's not because I'm better than anybody, it's because I eventually woke up to how screwed up a bunch of my thoughts and feelings were, and quite honestly, I'm angry at myself. So when you see me yell into my camera, more often than not, I'm not yelling at some imagined other or a straw man. I'm yelling at me. I hate myself for getting it wrong. Because accidentally making somebody feel bad feels worse to me than using what some consider to be pretentious academic terminology. And to many, those people use that terminology. But what of me 10 years ago? What of the guy who would eventually come to fight, such as he can anyway, for social equity and change, but wasn't quite there yet? Calling him names, as I likely would today, would prolong his journey into wanting to help. That's on me. But also, using words that sound ridiculous to him would send him into a place where he wasn't even willing to listen. Social justice, heteronormativity, rape culture, triggers, cultural appropriation. These are all words people came up with to describe very real problems that have far-reaching effects to the marginalized. But to those who spent their lives being told to feel guilty but not quite why, as I felt I was, they sound like this. You're bad, and you should feel bad. Here's a new stupid term to describe a thing you don't understand and why it should make you feel bad because you're bad. And you should feel bad. P.S. Keep feeling bad. And who wanted us to feel bad? Those people. And as much as I want this not to be true, it is. I felt this. I did this. This is how people, afraid of being terrible as I was, make ourselves feel like the reasonable adult in the room when we are anything but. We see the message as something that it isn't, and then we get angry. And the language is a big part of that. Now really what I needed was to grow up, realize it's my viewpoints and not my personhood being attacked, and grow a thicker skin and learn to listen. But I was unwilling to do this because the words sounded stupid and I liked my comfort zone to be comfortable. Thank you very much. I also didn't like being told that maybe I wasn't already awesome. But the irony is, the people with the thinnest skin always tell others to have the thicker skin. Come on, man, just learn to take a joke. But God help me if I suggest to those that maybe their jokes sucked. They go on tears. But for young Joe, I want to try to squeak just this one lesson through. Let's see if I can... Hey. It's you from 10 years from now.
Are you drunk again?
Yes, but I promise I'm not going to yell at you about embarrassing things you said on the internet again. I'm making a video this time.
Whoa. Do we still make movies?
Sort of. We were an assistant director in a feature a couple years back.
Years? Dude, I just wrapped a feature we shot on film and co-wrote. We must be super successful by now.
If you count making YouTube videos in a homemade green screen studio in Dad's garage for like 150 people successful, sure.
Wait, do we live with Dad when we're 34?
Oh, buddy. Tell Dad to go get a colonoscopy, gotta go, bye! Shit. Let's just leave 10 years ago Joe alone for now. But it's only the terminology that's new, be it triggers, social justice, size acceptance, heteronormativity, rape culture, cisgender. They all sound so ridiculous to many who just want to believe the world is good. And honestly, that is truly what I believe people are doing. I remain, contrary to popular belief, an optimist. I believe that the people who laugh at these things aren't evil. It's easy to paint them that way, but they're not terrible people. At least I'd like to think so. I hope that I wasn't a terrible person. I lived my life pretty much trying to atone for the fact that maybe I was, but I hope that I wasn't. I just want to believe that the world can't really be this screwed up, can it? Nothing this bad could actually exist. Everything is on the table to joke about because if we take none of it seriously, then all of it's fine. If everything is on the table and we can joke about whatever, then we're all joking, and if we're all joking, everything's cool. There's a valid point there. And it's one with several key counterpoints I couldn't possibly compress into a video I want to be as short as I want this one to be. For those of us who know that these things do happen, that the world is like this, every day, we come up with terms to describe it. And sometimes those terms don't land right away. But, and if you've been tuning me out, now would be the time to tune back in. There was a time in American history that racism was talked about in the same dismissive terms. Oh my God, he's comparing racism with what's going... Yes, I am. Because when people originally invented the term racism, it was divisive. And funnily enough, it still is. But, and here's the difference. It's 2016, and at the time this video was shot, anybody under about 40 who attended school grew up learning how racism was wrong. Here's why that's a big deal. Now, we didn't solve racism at all. People of color are still being murdered for pretty much no reason, seemingly daily, and I could easily make a 10-part mini-series on how instead of solving racism, we instead just agreed that it was wrong, and then went on to redefine what it was to the point that yelling racial epithets at somebody might not necessarily be because the yeller was racist. And yes, I heard that argument this week. But we all mostly agree that this once silly-sounding word is not only not silly, but is unequivocally bad. It's real, and it's definitely bad. So let's remember the time that those people were black people, and women, and anybody fighting for civil rights. And let's not make the same mistake our parents' and grandparents' generations did. Not necessarily our parents and grandparents, and individuals in every generation have been amazing. But generationally, let's not make the same mistake. Let's take the conversation somewhere else. Every term invented to speak about a problem that makes us uncomfortable was laughable when it was invented. Let's remember that and not mock new language just because it sounds weird to us. We're not going to solve the underlying problem society has by agreeing on the terms we use to talk about them, but it's a damn sight better than not having any words at all. And maybe we should start asking ourselves who those people really are and why they were so mockable to begin with. For Sofa Justice Warriors, I'm Joe. Thank you, everybody. Good night.